Dollar. Dirt and money, no soul. Had to go and get it, ain't no time to kick it. Got a stack and flip for my foes. Dollar. Please tell me you can hear me. Don't turn your back and don't neglect me. Just let me know if you need me. Dollar. Let me watch out for my partners. Keep my money long, get my team strong. Let me run away from my problems.
Yo, what's good, original crew, man? We're back. Hey, we got Chillin' Scares in the building today. We got 5 most disturbing audio recordings for us today. That's crazy. With that being said, you ready to get into it?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Let's go, y'all. Let's check it out.
On May 23rd, 1961, two brothers inside an abandoned German bunker in Italy sat down to listen to the empty static of space. Over the years, they had pulled all kinds of strange sounds from that static. But what came through their headphones on this particular night had the potential to change the entire history of space exploration. What they heard was the voice of a woman speaking in Russian. The full transmission lasted a little over 2 minutes. Throughout it, the woman repeatedly called for the person on the other end to answer her. As the transmission continued, she began mentioning her breathing and oxygen. But soon after this, her words became far more alarming. She claimed the temperature was rising and repeatedly said that she felt hot, like she was in some sort of immediate danger. Then, near the end of the recording, she said she could see a flame and asked whoever was on the other end whether she was going to crash. And with that, the transmission abruptly ends. The two men listening were Achille and Gianbattista, amateur radio operators who had built a tracking station using military surplus equipment, chicken wire, old pipes, and dishware. But despite its homemade construction, the brothers were far from inexperienced. Over the years, they had successfully tracked signals from the first artificial satellite, the first US satellite, and even the heartbeat of the first dog sent into orbit. In other words, their station had become one of the most capable amateur space tracking operations anywhere on Earth, which is exactly what makes the recording of the woman speaking Russian so difficult to dismiss. The voice had appeared on a frequency the brothers associated with Soviet spacecraft. However, unlike the beeps and telemetry they normally intercepted, this was unmistakably a human being who appeared to be in serious trouble. From the translated words, the brothers claimed they were hearing a Soviet cosmonaut trying to contact ground control as a fire spread throughout her spacecraft and she began burning during the descent back to Earth. And they believed they had intercepted a transmission the Soviet Union never intended the rest of the world to hear. But as soon as they made the recording public, that explanation ran into several major problems. This transmission was supposedly captured only 6 weeks after Yuri Gagarin became the first officially recognized human being in space. If the brothers were right, the Soviets had launched another crewed mission almost immediately afterward, only this time with a woman aboard. That would mean Valentina Tereshkova, who flew in 1963, wasn't actually the first woman in space. She was simply the first one who came back alive. And for that to be true, the Soviets would have had to launch and lose another female cosmonaut, then erase the entire mission from the public record. So, to many people, this story was simply too unrealistic, and they chose to believe in a much simpler explanation, that the Italian brothers had made up the entire thing. Their earlier recordings had already brought them considerable attention, and critics believed this mysterious woman was merely an attempt to keep that attention alive. And one of the first objections the experts raised was the physical impossibility of the transmission. You see, as the spacecraft tears back into the atmosphere, the air surrounding it becomes intensely heated and ionized, forming a layer of plasma that blocks or severely weakens radio signals. This is exactly why mission control can lose contact with returning spacecraft for several minutes during the most dangerous stage of their descent. So if the woman in the recording was already burning through the atmosphere, the brothers should never have been able to catch the transmission in the first place. But if we listen closely to the exact words the woman says, it leaves room for another possibility. She mentioned heat and a visible flame while she was still asking clear questions and transmitting continuously. This could mean the capsule had not yet entered the full communications blackout. The rising temperature might have come from an electrical fire or a failing temperature control system inside the spacecraft rather than the atmosphere burning around it. That would also explain why she sounded more confused than terrified. She might still have been trying to understand what was going wrong, and the sudden end of the recording might have been the exact moment the plasma blackout finally cut her off. But the technical problem was not the only reason people doubted the tape. Over the years, many Russian speakers have argued that the woman doesn't sound like a native speaker at all. In fact, many have claimed that her voice carries an Italian cadence, which led many critics to believe that the brothers staged the recording with help from their sister, who was known to be learning Russian at the time. On top of this, a number of experts have also pointed out that the woman in the recording never used the formal call signs or communication language heard in genuine Soviet space transmissions. And digging through the official documents doesn't reveal a single mission record from that period that ever indicated that the Soviets were planning to send a woman into space in 1961. But strangely enough, this absence of documentation is exactly why this transmission may be real. As far-fetched as a secret dead cosmonaut sounds, the Soviet Union had a well-documented history of making inconvenient failures disappear from public history. There are cases going back to Stalin's era where individuals were physically painted out of official photographs as if they never existed at all. Similarly, after the collapse of the USSR, declassified documents revealed multiple deadly accidents connected to the space program that had been kept hidden from the world for decades. These included the Nedelin catastrophe, where a launch pad explosion killed 78 people, and Valentin Bondelienko, a cosmonaut trainee who burned to death inside an oxygen-rich pressure chamber. Both these incidents occurred during the same period when the transmission of the woman was captured, and yet they remained completely hidden from the public until the 1980s. Now, none of this proves that the Soviets actually sent a woman into space who died and covered it up. But what it does tell us is that when something went wrong in their space program, they had both the means and the motive to make sure nobody ever found out. The Soviets were locked in a bitter race against the United States, and every successful mission was treated as proof that their system was superior. Admitting that they sent a woman into space only to burn her alive would have transformed a historical achievement into an international humiliation. With the press under state control, hiding the mission would have been far easier than admitting they had failed. So, if that is what happened, then this woman was the first female cosmonaut ever launched into space, and nobody was ever told. More than 6 decades later, the world still doesn't know her name. The only record she may have left behind is this 2-minute recording of her calling for someone to answer as the spacecraft around her grew hotter and her voice slowly disappeared into the static.
Nah, that's a history lesson right there. Man, I gotta do some research on that situation. That's crazy. But
I was about to say, I wonder would it be like much out there since they tried to hide it and say that it actually never happened.
True.
So.
True. But I won't know unless I try.
On the evening of June 29th, 2017, a woman named Tara Bullis quietly switched on a hidden microphone as she arrived at a benefit walk for a missing student. Before entering the crowd, she whispered the date and time into the recorder, then noted that the man walking beside her had brought alcohol and was clearly drinking.
It's 6:46 on Thursday, June 29th. We're at the benefit for the walk, and Brent has a thing of alcohol, and he is drinking while he's here. So I'm thinking I'm just going to turn this on right now so that it's on while we walk. This is kind of ridiculous.
What she didn't know yet was that the hidden wire she was wearing would become the key piece of evidence in one of the most disturbing criminal cases Illinois had seen in years. Tara was secretly working with the FBI to find the missing student, and the man beside her was Brent Christensen. He was the prime suspect in the disappearance of the woman whose benefit they had come to attend. Tara had already agreed to record several conversations with him, but so far none had given investigators the evidence they needed. Even as they moved through the crowd that evening, Brent initially said nothing that directly connected him to the case. But as he continued drinking, his attention slowly shifted toward the people gathered around them.
So weird. I don't even know how to process it. It's just, all those people there tonight, they want her home safe. It's just...
And what he began saying next suggested that investigators might be dealing with something far worse than a single disappearance.
Right?
They tell you, you have no idea what happened. Nobody knows what happened.
Nobody will know what
For me.
happened. And nobody will know.
Whoa. Whoa.
What do you know what happened?
Nobody will know what
For me.
happened. And nobody will know what happened.
No, not even you. Like, I'm the only one who's happy.
You're the only
She
one.
was.
You know, you're the only one that knows where she's at.
The woman Brent was talking about was 26-year-old Yingying Zhang, a visiting scholar from China who had arrived at the University of Illinois only 2 months earlier to research crop production. On June 9th, Yingying was traveling to an off-campus apartment complex where she planned to sign a new lease. After missing her connecting bus, surveillance cameras showed her walking several blocks to another stop and waiting for the next one. But shortly after 2 p.m., a black Saturn Astra passed her, circled the block, and returned. The driver stopped beside Yingying and spoke with her through the passenger window for roughly 1 minute. She then entered the car, and that was the last time she was ever seen. When investigators looked through the surveillance footage, they couldn't make out the vehicle's license plate, so they began examining every black Saturn Astra registered in the surrounding area. One of them belonged to 27-year-old Brent Christensen, who had recently completed his master's at the University of Illinois and had worked as a teaching assistant. At first, nothing clearly separated his car from the others. But when agents reviewed the footage more closely, they noticed that the vehicle in surveillance footage had a similar sunroof and damaged hubcap as Brent's car. When agents first questioned him, Brent claimed he had spent the afternoon at home, either sleeping or playing video games.
Okay. Well, you originally told the agents that came to your apartment that you just played video games all day long. You didn't leave the apartment.
Yeah.
But it's fair to say that we know that that's not true, correct?
Why would I lie?
However, once investigators confronted him with footage of his vehicle moving around the university, his story began to fall apart. Brent eventually admitted that he had picked up an Asian woman near the campus, but according to him, he only drove her a few blocks before making a wrong turn, causing her to panic and demand to be released.
I was just driving around. I saw a girl and she was very distressed.
Okay.
So I stopped my car and looked at her. I asked her if she needed help. I talked to her for a little bit. Not much. I gave her a short ride a couple blocks. She freaked out and got out.
However, the investigators didn't believe him, as the location data from Yingying's phone didn't match his account of events.
I think I've demonstrated enough. I've shared enough with you that you know that I know that you didn't drop her off in that neighborhood. You know that we can follow her phone.
Mm-hmm.
But since they had no direct evidence that could establish what happened after Yingying entered his vehicle, they allowed Brent to leave the station without being charged. The FBI immediately placed him under constant surveillance and approached Tara, who was in a polyamorous relationship with him. She agreed to wear the recording device, hoping her conversations with Brent would either clear his name or finally reveal what he was doing. Over the following days, Tara secretly recorded him 9 times, but nothing he said in those recordings gave investigators anything solid enough to act on, until the two of them attended Yingying's benefit walk, surrounded by her family, friends, and hundreds of strangers hoping she would still be found alive. Brent finally revealed why he had come to the event. "I just wanted to see how many people were here for me." But during the vigil, Brent finally stopped speaking in vague hints. He took Tara's phone and typed 4 short messages, deleting each one after she had read it. "It was me. She was number 13. She is gone. Forever." These 4
She
men.
was number
13.
Hold on, what you mean by that, my boy?
Right.
Because that's
What do
very
you
bizarre.
mean?
She was number 13. 13 of what?
Okay.
Man, people weird,
Messages
bro.
transformed Yingying's disappearance from a missing person mystery into a murder case. And as Tara managed to keep him talking, he began describing how fiercely Yingying had fought to survive.
She was valiant. She looked.
She would. She fight.
More than anyone else.
Really? A little tiny girl.
More than anyone else.
Does she really have broken English? Did she say anything to you?
Yeah. She fought more than anyone else I've ever met.
Brent continued to go into very graphic
My
detail,
goodness,
but
what?
Yingying's murder was not the only thing he confessed to. He claimed he had been killing since he was 19, that Yingying was his 13th victim, and that the previous 12 had left almost no evidence behind. More disturbingly, he said he still wanted to continue.
You just the only person that has produced evidence that these happened. Number 13. I've had this since I was 19. I still want to do it. My legacy.
He proudly compared himself to other notorious serial killers. But during these boastful statements, he made a claim that would go on to add another layer of mystery to the case.
Family, you hear it a few times that they won't leave until she's found, until they can recover them. They're going to leave everything because they'll never no one will ever know. The FBI, you have a GPS in the car and everything. I was able to do this within hours. She's gone forever.
Wow.
The FBI arrested Brent the following days. When investigators searched his apartment, they found traces of Ying Ying's blood in his bedroom. His trial began on June 12, 2019, at federal court in Peoria, Illinois. 12 days later, the jury found him guilty of kidnapping resulting in death and 2 counts of lying to FBI agents. On July 18th, Brent was sentenced to life in prison without any possibility of release. But the sentence could not undo the final part of Brent's plan. Unfortunately, his prediction about Ying Ying's family returning empty-handed came true. Her body has never been recovered. And if Brent was telling the truth about having 12 earlier victims, he may have been just as effective at making them disappear. But so far, investigators have never found evidence connecting him to another murder. His defense argued that he'd been drinking and was exaggerating to impress Tara. But Tara...
You think he's bragging about murders, or you think he's bragging about assaults? What you think? Then I'll tell you what I think.
Let me see, because he said number 13. She's the only one that's
She's the only one that fought.
Yeah, it's given.
Fought the way
it's given that he's done more than just like he's done something else to this degree, especially with him making a statement that she's the only one that has left evidence that has led back to him. Like, what does that even mean? Because even if
he in Illinois, right? They don't have DP, so never mind.
Because I'm like, even if it was something else, just say that it was something else, right? I can try and piece things, like, say for instance you did something. I'm just talking vaguely, for the sake of the video. But say for instance you, like, I met you out at a bar or something and you did something to, like, and I could try to piece things together to like, if I reported you and, like, piece things together to try to see, like, who this person was and stuff like that, check cameras, check things of that nature. But it's given something else, unless he was, like you said, unless he was just saying things to try to impress her. But I don't understand why you would feel the need to impress her when you were already in a relationship with her. So that's just kind of weird to me. In a relationship with Tara.
Yeah, but he was also able to get rid of the body to the point where
you know what I'm saying? To the point they had,
But I do think he has a sick mind.
But you don't think that he has any other...
I think when he was like, she was the only one that fought like the way she did, I think he was talking about, like, fought back. I think he assaulted for sure. That's just me personally, but who knows besides him and his sick, weird mind. Basically, he's been telling people he's been sick. Like,
His defense argued that he'd been drinking and was exaggerating to impress Tara. But Tara testified that while Brent had consumed alcohol, he did not appear drunk. She said he seemed proud and excited while discussing the murder, and in the days that followed, he never once contacted her to take back what he had said. Now, it is difficult to dismiss the claim entirely when you consider the tone Brent used to talk about his alleged victims. His voice never shifted into the dramatic, exaggerated tone of someone trying to sound dangerous. He stayed calm, as though he was discussing something he had done several times before. If anything, Ying Ying's case is proof that he was capable of doing exactly that. Without a damaged hubcap and a girlfriend willing to wear a wire and capture key, disturbing audio, investigators would have nothing more than footage of a woman getting into a car. Whether or not there were really 12 others will likely never be known.
Yeah, we'll never know for sure.
On the morning of August 13th, 1997, the crew of the Howard Stern Show was taking calls from listeners as it usually did. Many of the people who made it onto the air were harmless pranksters or attention seekers willing to say almost anything just to hear their own voice on the radio. So, when a producer passed along a caller claiming to have killed several people, no one in the studio appeared to take him seriously. In hindsight, there were reasons to take him more seriously than they did.
I got a guy on the phone who claims he's been killing prostitutes and he's wondering why he's doing it. Oh, God. So maybe he thinks I have an answer. Is this Ed? Ed?
No, this isn't Ed.
Oh.
You haven't killed any prostitutes?
No, I never said my name was Ed.
Oh.
Sorry.
That's okay.
What name do you use?
You can call me Clay.
Clay?
Clay?
Yes, Clay.
When Howard asked him about his supposed victims, Clay's answer immediately caught everyone off guard.
Okay, Clay, so what happened? How many prostitutes have you killed?
12.
According to him, these victims were often women who worked the streets around New Orleans. And when the crew asked him about his pattern of murder, he described horrific methods.
How else did you kill them?
Well, a few times, actually most times with a hammer.
And where do you do this primarily?
I've done it twice in a parking garage, and then the rest of the times on the side of the road.
Dude, you got to have a lot of anger in you.
Clay later said that he had been doing it since he was a teenager.
How old were you when you killed your first woman?
16.
And you must be a powerful kind of guy, big guy.
I wasn't then.
Right.
Howard immediately began searching for a reason that could explain such depraved actions, asking Clay about his childhood. But Clay rejected every possibility.
Did your mom beat you? Did your mom spank you?
Was your mom a prostitute?
No. Actually, nothing like that.
What is it then?
I think I just do it for the sense of the power.
Right.
Yet, the most unsettling part of the call wasn't what Clay claimed to have done. It was how little emotion he showed while describing it. At no point during the entire call did Clay sound like a person who was publicly confessing to 12 vicious murders. He talked more like a person explaining a habit he had stopped questioning long ago. He didn't sound ashamed and showed no obvious fear that the police might be listening. Even when Howard directly called him a serial killer, Clay responded with the same casual tone he had used throughout the conversation. He went on to blame boredom as the reason to commit these inhumane acts.
Dude, you're a serial killer.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just want to kill.
I'm just bored.
The entire call lasted roughly 17 minutes. Clay then hung up and was never heard from again. So, the obvious question is the same one listeners have been asking for almost 30 years. Was any of this actually real? And the most convenient answer is no. You see, by that time, the Howard Stern Show had built its reputation around taboo-breaking comedy, outrageous guests, and phony phone calls. So, a man confessing to murder was, sadly, not out of the ordinary. And if you listen closely, there are moments when Clay appeared to struggle with his own story. For instance, when Howard pressed him on why the killings had supposedly stopped, Clay's story became noticeably less certain. He first blamed a broken-down car, then admitted that this only accounted for 1 month of an almost year-long break, before vaguely putting the rest down to self-control.
No, but in all seriousness, I mean, do you think that you could control this? Do you think you can stop?
I think I have been.
Oh, you have been for the last couple of months?
A year he hasn't killed.
Oh, a year?
Yeah.
Almost.
So why do you think you stopped killing all of a sudden?
I really don't know, Howard. Part of it had to do with my car broke down.
Oh, no transportation.
Seriously? That's the reason?
Well, that was the reason for a month, but after that, I guess it was all self-control.
Wow. But
So you don't want to do this anymore?
No, he wants to do it, but he's controlling himself. Like, you want to kill women, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Moments of hesitation like this made parts of the call sound like he was making up details as he went along. But on the other hand, maybe it was simply Clay carefully deciding how much he could reveal without exposing his identity. Nonetheless, after the call was aired, federal agents turned up at the studio to collect copies of the audio recording, and immediately started looking into the possibility of a potential serial killer on the loose. However, I couldn't find a single reliable report or official statement revealing anything about the investigation. And to this date, there has been no public record that identified the real person who called the show. So, the only real way to judge his story is to compare it with the crimes he claimed to be describing. And when his confession is placed beside what was happening in New Orleans at the time, some of the details line up uncomfortably well. By August 1995, authorities were investigating 24 killings committed around the city over the previous 4 years. Most of the victims were vulnerable women who worked the streets, and many had been killed before their bodies were abandoned in isolated areas. Which means Clay wasn't describing some imaginary pattern of violence. Both the victims and the scale of the killings all lined up with a real investigation that was still unresolved when he called the show. But these killings had also been reported in the news before Clay called the show. So a prankster following the case could have taken the publicly known details and built a convincing story around them. That said, there was a man whose real criminal history appeared to fit Clay's story far more closely. His name was Russell Elwood, a former taxi driver from New Orleans. Russell had been questioned by the Serial Crime Task Force and was eventually charged with murdering Cheryl Lewis and Dolores Mack, two of the women whose deaths had been examined as part of the wider New Orleans case. During the investigation, multiple women also came forward claiming that he had picked them up in his taxi, attacked them, and left them in isolated areas. And because the location, the victims, and the nature of the crimes all appeared to match Clay's confession, several people online came to believe that Russell was the man speaking on the recording. This theory fits well, except the timeline makes it almost impossible for Russell to be Clay. Russell was arrested in Florida on August 4th, 1997 after purchasing drugs from an undercover officer. He remained incarcerated for the next 85 days. Clay's call aired 9 days after that arrest, meaning Russell was already in a jail cell when the call was made. So the voice in the recording almost certainly did not belong to Russell Elwood. However, ruling him out doesn't automatically prove that Clay was lying. Russell was convicted of only 2 murders, and no one was ever able to establish that a single person was responsible for every death being investigated around New Orleans. This leaves open the possibility that several killers were targeting similar women in the same area, and that Clay was describing victims who were never connected to Russell's case. But unfortunately, this is as far as the evidence goes. No victim has ever been conclusively matched to the details Clay gave during the call, and no major breakthrough has revealed the identity of the man behind the voice. So, almost 30 years later, the recording still comes down to 2 possibilities. Either a prankster studied a real series of unsolved murders and used those details to create an unusually convincing confession, or a serial killer openly admitted to murdering 12 women on live radio, hung up the phone, and was never identified.
You think that could have been real?
I mean, anything possibly, but maybe it could just be someone that was following it or just wanted to call in and like this big, like, oh, hey, I'm the one, you'll never catch me, or whatever the case might be. Maybe not. I mean, we know something was going on. We know someone is doing this stuff. But I just think that's bold. But some of them did used to be bold. Like, we did ones where they were bold. Like,
yeah, bitch, be bold. My bad.
They were very bold and used to call in and, like, taunting. Like, hey,
yeah, they have.
I did this.
Was it the BTK killer? That's what he used to, yeah.
That's what he used to do. Call the police and stuff. Yeah. Call to the police station and doing stuff. So, I mean, it's possible. It is possible. I mean, but...
I said this is the reason why I think it's a high chance of it being the victims. Typically, a lot of times with cases with victims like those, the way they handle the cases are the same way. Mm-hmm. It's kind of, because I just feel like it's very disrespectful because at the end of the day, they're all victims. They're still victims at the end of the day. No matter what their profession were, no matter what they decide to do on a daily basis, they're still a victim. Mm-hmm. And we know how they used to handle cases back in the day.
On December 3rd, 2016, at 2:46 in the morning, police responded to a report of an abandoned car parked on the Route 35 bridge over the Shark River in Belmar, New Jersey. Nothing was wrong with the car. The keys were still inside, but there was no sign of the driver anywhere on the bridge or in the area below. Running the plate led officers to Lillian Stern. She was safe at home and explained that the vehicle was normally driven by her 19-year-old granddaughter, Sarah. Oh. Eventually, someone would come forward and explain exactly what happened to Sarah that night. But at this point in the investigation, that conversation hadn't happened yet. Sarah was a 19-year-old arts and TV production major at Brookdale Community College. The day before, she had spent the afternoon running errands with her childhood friend, Liam McAtasney, before stopping for lunch at Taco Bell. It was an ordinary day, except that it was the last time anyone saw her in public. The car had been left close to the edge of the bridge, and there were no obvious signs that anyone else had been inside. According to Liam, Sarah had previously talked about her life in a concerning manner. He also explained how she had an increasingly difficult relationship with her father. However, no one else who knew Sarah believed this explanation. One friend even told investigators that Sarah had made plans to see her that very day, which is hardly the behavior of someone planning to disappear. According to reports, Liam provided another possibility to investigators. He claimed that Sarah had talked about leaving New Jersey and starting over in Canada to get away from her father. The same friend Sarah had made plans with confirmed this theory. She told investigators Sarah had mentioned a Toronto trip and that she'd recently come into money that could finally make it happen. But when police searched her bedroom, they found her passport, social security card, and Canadian currency still there. If she had crossed the border voluntarily, she had left behind almost everything she would have needed to do it. The money her friend had mentioned came from a shoebox that Sarah had found inside a family property along with a note left by her mother before she died. Because much of it was old and damaged, Sarah placed a large portion inside a safe deposit box. On the day she vanished, surveillance footage showed Sarah visiting the bank with Liam to withdraw a portion of that money. When investigators later obtained the warrant to open the box, $25,250 was still inside. But a portion had been taken out that afternoon, and Liam had been standing beside her when she collected it. And he was also one of the last people known to have seen her alive. Then, in January 2017, a man named Anthony Curry contacted authorities. Anthony was a young filmmaker who regularly discussed horror movie ideas with Liam. So, when Liam pitched a disturbing plot on Thanksgiving night, about a week before Sarah's disappearance, Anthony initially thought nothing much of it. According to Anthony, the story involved a young woman who had discovered money left by her deceased mother. Her friend would then meet her to count it, her, take the cash, and throw her from a bridge before abandoning her car. 1 week later, Sarah disappeared under almost exactly those circumstances.
No way.
Anthony still hesitated to accuse someone he considered a friend, but Liam began repeatedly asking to meet and eventually sent him a Snapchat message asking whether police had questioned him. That was enough to convince Anthony that the supposed movie idea may have been a real plan. In search of concrete evidence, police wired Anthony's car as he drove up to meet with Liam on the 31st of January 2017. Unaware that he was being recorded, right after the two of them met, Liam made a horrifying confession that put all the other theories about Sarah's death to rest.
Dude, you can't blame me for doing this, right? I gotta feel you up real quick, alright? You're good. No disrespect. I'll show you. No disrespect, okay? Nothing. Yeah, I got the FBI on my dude. What are they questioning? Oh yeah, a lot. About what? About killing Sarah. Alright, so I'm hanging out with her.
Say about
No, you want to say it like
said,
that.
like maybe like about Sarah, or just like the fact that she's missing, or what?
Or just say
or
about
just
Sarah.
say about Sarah, just period. Yeah. Just leave it like that.
She has. We went to the bank. She took some money out, not all of her money. We're counting it out, and then she goes to walk out the front door. My biggest problem was the dog, and her dog laid there and watched as I killed her. Didn't do anything.
Liam went on to describe the graphic details of every step of his process in depth. Not only did he show no sign of remorse during this whole conversation, but he was also showing signs of irritation that the cash was less than he expected. What he actually found was only a fraction of what he had hoped, and the bills were so worn that he wasn't sure a bank would take them.
So you've been laying low, I guess. Oh yeah. And that's not even the worst part. The worst part of it is, I thought I was walking out 50 grand, 100 grand in my pocket. She had one safe, and she took money out, and she only had 10 grand. And this money, I don't know if it was burnt or something. It's old money, terrible quality. I don't even know if I can put any of it in the bank.
Police arrested Liam and his roommate Preston Taylor, who reportedly had assisted with getting rid of Sarah's body the very next day. Preston confessed almost immediately and led investigators to a locked safe at their residence, buried in the ground. It was opened using keys recovered from Liam's car. Inside the safe, police found around $9,000. At the trial, Liam's defense argued that the recording wasn't a confession, but instead an audition for a role in Anthony's films. But with all the evidence and witnesses present, the jury didn't buy the excuse. On the 26th of February 2019, Liam was convicted on all 7 charges, including first-degree murder, robbery, felony murder, and desecrating human remains. Later, in June, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Unfortunately, Sarah Stern's body has never been found.
Oh, it probably got taken away with the water. Damn, bro. Fuck, dude.
On April 10th, 2018, a 16-year-old boy made 2 911 calls that were supposed to save his life. And
what year was it? My bad, y'all. Like, dude, over fucking money. Yeah, the money is. That's the reason why burying money was never a good idea. Because the moisture, a lot of people know this. Some people don't. But you get what I mean? Like, you offer some money. Talking about, I thought I was coming up $50,000 to $100,000, bro. I ain't gonna hold you. Anytime you do come into some money like that, please refrain from letting people know. Don't let family know. Don't let close friends know, because you never know who might be plotting on you.
18, a 16-year-old boy made 2 911 calls that were supposed to save his life. Instead, they became the recorded evidence of one of the most inexcusable failures a police department has ever been forced to answer for. The calls were made by Kyle Plush, who drove to Seven Hills High School in Cincinnati, Ohio to pick up some tennis.
I ain't gonna hold you. I don't even want to hear it. That's the one that was trapped in there.
Yeah, I remember.
We done several of
because
them.
that really like broke my heart, because it's like.
Yeah, we'll end it right there. That's the one that was tragic. He was in the car.
Yeah.
The minivan. The
van.
minivan. Yeah,
I'm like, y'all right? Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Like, why can't y'all? Yeah.
I think we've talked about that even after the fact. I swear I feel like we had went back and talked about that, and it was still so devastating. Yeah, to say the least.
Yeah.
But hey, man, y'all spam us up in the comments. Y'all let us know y'all thoughts in the comments for us down below. But until next time, y'all know how it go, man. I do go by the name DJ New Kid. This is
Sierra Nicole.
We are.
Kid and C.
We are.
Go and get it, ain't no time to kick it. Got a stack of flip for my foes. Dollar,